game goes from chaos to structure to unstructure all the time, doesn't it? Ebb and flow, and it doesn't look, might not be happy with the shape that it gets into, and it gets into shape. You may get players clustered in a small part of the field and big parts of the field empty, right? But then you can't play wide when you're all, gathered in half the field, right? So make sure that the whole point of structure is to give the game a bit of a foundation, but don't be enslaved by it, right? Otherwise, you do get robotic, and then the players will look at you for answers, and they want to empower themselves to play freely, right? And that's the unstructured pieces. How you think the game as coaches or players? I had a good rugby education. I came up through a high school program that developed into a really good program, and then went to Loughborough University and was coached by Jim Greenwood, who was a legend in the coaching ranks throughout total rugby, and was revolutionary in the 1980s in the way he coached. But I never really, this didn't really sink into me as a player, but as a coach or player, I think we need to develop more intelligent players. And in order to develop intelligent players, if you think of higher order thinking skills, you go for knowledge, right? You get to know something about the game. You go to understanding, comprehension. Then you go to application, right? You can start to use it. And then often we sort of stop there. Do we really go to analysis? Do we get into synthesis? Do we get into higher level thinking skills that we apply in a moment, right? We want players that can read and react and adjust, and if something's not working, change it, right? And not wait to halftime to look at you and say, what's the answer? Right? Beautiful if our job, less stressful if you see something that the ultimate goal of coaching is to be not really needed. I had a track coach at Loughborough University, and he was a British team coach, and he was coaching me at 400 meters after I left, but I used to call him. He was coaching by a phone call, and he'd get to the point, he said, "You don't need me anymore." He says, "You know what you're doing, right?" And so I think ultimately you'd love players where you can facilitate and direct the ship without having to, do everything. You don't want to do everything. So, get the ball. Is this your halftime? You're thinking, as the game's going on, are we winning the ball? Do we have the scrums? Are we winning our lineouts? Okay, check that box in possession, or if there's a problem, it's a problem, right? Are we attacking space? Are we moving the ball and attacking them on the outside if that's open? Are we attacking them around the edges because of the rucks? They're not very good there. Are we attacking the right spots in the field? Do we have support? Do you have guys making line breaks and getting caught with no support? Are we getting turnovers and tackles because the support's late? Is there continuity? Do we go phase, or is it one phase and the whistle blows because we knock the ball on, right? And then if we continue to have the ball in attack, we will pressurize the defense, and the defense will begin to crack, right? The more phases we can go. So you may be asking yourself these things. The empowerment of players would be what we call a hot review process that I'll get into in the next presentation about getting players to quickly huddle up, look at each other, and ask themselves two questions. What are we doing right? What can we fix? Right? And then address all of those around these issues. And then you could then ask the player, say, what are you coming up with? If they're missing the point and it's a halftime conversation and you think that they're not really moving the ball to the correct, moving the ball wide, for example, to attack wide, you may say, hey, are we really, where's the space that we could attack? Where do you think it is? What would help us to get there? So you can sort of prod them for answers. And sometimes you just have to come out and identify it. You may not have time for it, right? And that's the elasticity of coaching, going from being hands-on direct to really facilitate, stepping back, and constantly flowing from one to the other when it's needed. There's a time when you just need to put your foot down and say, this is the problem, address it. You don't have time to waste. There's times, because the self-discovery mode doesn't really have the clock ticking on it, right? I'm working with a coach right now, and she's really very game-based, and I love game-based focus, but game-based takes time because it's you know, do you have that time? You know, we're playing a tour game in 2 days. We're installing stuff, and if a kid doesn't get it, we'll sit down with them, do film on it, and say, what do you need? What do you not understand here? But during the practice, it's let's move on. We got to get this in place, right? Field maps. You may say, well, good, but players don't go around, you know, with their phone on trying to figure out where the opposition goal line is, right? So if this is the field and I'm going that way, so this channel 1, 2, 2 and 3 are split by the post, and then channel 4. The problem I see, for example, with a lot of teams is they don't exploit the full width of the field. So let's say we started in channel 1 on the left. It could be a set piece, scrum or line out. Let's say we attack and we take the fade, the ball into 2 or into, maybe we go another phase, we get into channel 3. And then the scrum half reverses the attack and brings it back. And we don't go into channel 4. Right? Have we made the defense go to defend channel 4? No. So the guys that are, let's say you're playing against a team that's not very fit, right? And you're going the same way attack, they're not going to want to go and defend channel 4 in numbers. So why would we reverse and come right back to where the defense is? So go attack the space where the defense is weakest, right? And where there's less numbers. You could have the number 9 coming around into channel 4 with a wing, and if they're defending it and they mirror you, that's 2 on 2. And I know I would put money on my 2 to beat 2 opposite them, right? Good evasive number 9, a good wing who wants the ball, I would come around the corner and attack that channel, right? Or maybe even rubber kick through into that channel and behind it, you know. But the point is here, think of space on the field, and this is a good way to analyze space. I had a simple rule for Tempe last week. We're playing the first game of the season. Can we play rugby in their half? And we have experienced players, number 8, 9, 10, 12, right? I thought, you know, this is not their first time around, right? And we spent the first 10 to 15 to 20 minutes dropping the ball in our end. And like, why do we keep in the opposition in the game? And they got a 5-0 lead, and we kept dropping the ball. Can we just, like, one pass, put it down there, and then suddenly I think about the 25-minute mark, a good kick went in. They're playing very flat with their wings. The fullback's having to cover the entire width of the field. He gathers the ball. He obviously can't kick, and he runs right into 3 chasing, chasers. And we ended up with the ball in their half, and then we scored. And it took us 25 minutes to figure out that maybe we should have kicked in the first 5 minutes. So I think where you play and whether your strategy is simple, whether you just divide the field up into your half and their half, whether you go into 1, 2, 3 channels, or whatever you have, but just have a sort of field map and have the players have a little bit of awareness where they are. Right? And with the 50-22 rule, which really, you know, needs to be played to your advantage, what does that give you? That means you can kick the ball from your half, given that the ruck or the source of the ball has to be inside the half, and you bounce it into touch inside the opposition 22, and you get the line out. So It's not attractive in terms of ball in play, but it certainly puts you in a good position. If your line is absolutely disastrous, you probably don't want line is, but certainly puts you up the field, right? So, therefore, you know, do you have a kicking game? Do you have a kicking strategy? You know, do you have kickers? Right? You can watch high school games and there's no semblance of kicking, right? And you know, you know, it's something that can be done relatively simple into space. All right, let's go on here. So the quality of ball coming out of, you play your first phase, the ball's dead, you start your lineouts, your kicks, your restarts. So you're either getting fastball, slow ball, or dead ball. Right? So the fastball is what you want. That is the gold medal for you. And you want fastball over the game line, going forward, right? And that ball is accessible really quickly, and the ruck is 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. Scrum halves get the ball in their hands, and they're up, passing, or running, right? And we're off. That's what we want. Obviously, we have to work to get there. Now, slow ball is usually not our choice unless we're going backwards and we just want to slow it down because we don't have support. We want to stop it. But with slow ball, you're generally, you know, it's, I would say fastball is 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. After that, you're into slow ball. By the time you get into 8,000, 9,000, 10,000, the game is dead, right? It's everybody defensively is in position. Your threat is diminished, and you need to, you know, change something there. So, right. So fastball, basically, I want to attack wide. Why wide? Because if we made a line break, we're drawing in some defenders, we'd probably get a man advantage on the outside. So ideally, it could be 4 attacking 3 with a fullback, 3-1. You know, it could be 3-on-2. You know, you should have the advantage in terms of defenders, right? So that would be a goal there. Slow ball, we're probably going to hit forwards coming off 9 or off 10, and we're going to call what we call flood. So we're going to hit that channel, and we're going to carry and bash the door down, right? Attack the space, but there'll be defenders in there, and we're just going to, our forwards are going to be the front line runners here. And then dead ball, we're going to gather our forwards in, and we could pick and go with even a 4-4 shape. And so we'll talk more about that. You've got to have attack language. And by the way, if you want this presentation, you just tell me afterwards, I'll get it to you. I think the less words the better. There's too many words on here since, like we just went through winter camp and we trimmed this even further. We didn't put exit on there because it's pretty clear. You don't really say, hey, we're exiting, you know, you don't call it a play. It's just, that's when you want to get out of your end. But keywords for me would be flood. That's where you attack a channel. Or spread, that's where you go with some width. So if there's 2 words, like when I code 7s, we'll go to the tropical 7s. There'll just be two things in attack, flood and spread. That's it. Do one or do the other, right? And one could lead to the other, right? So then, if you go back a bit, Brad, just the punch and Judy concept here, direct runners, the punch runners, Judy runners are a second line of attack. Now the second line of attack is really underused, and it's basically set up on the idea of, so let's say you're going through your 10, there's your punch runner. I like a shape called a double punch. This could be a forward, and then we could have players at the back like that. So your options then are 9 to 10, 10 here, they can go here, we can attack here, we can go here, go here, right? So this is layered attack, right? 2 layers, right? This seldom happens, in the high school game, even in the national championships, you don't see an awful lot of this. And yet it's very much in the international youth game, right? So you can coach it, but you have to install it, right? They're not going to automatically do this. So the Ringo I get rid of, lucky I get rid of, so I want to trim it. So the Reds we play off 9, Whites we play off 10. The white call overrules the red call. So if I'm at fly half, I get a better vision of the game. The 9's ready to pass. The 9's focused in on the ball. Once he's scanned, he's like an airplane landing. They're coming in, and then they're relying on the 10. So if the red's calling 9, that's the forwards folding. If the fly half calls white, you cancel the red and you just hit the fly half, right? For the first receiver, it could be anybody there, anybody else. All right, we go. These lines, again, vocabulary in terms of what, the only thing that's lacking here is the tackle line, I should add, because the tackle line's fluid, right? Defensive, the onside line, the attack line could be deep, could be shallow, could be flat. The tackle line is contestable, right? Everybody wants to get over the gain line because the gain line determines whether you go forward, right? So, again, is it language that you introduce to your players? Right? Because the vocabulary with players, in my world, players are coming from a multitude of clubs across the country with different language, being coached by Kiwis, Americans, South American, South Africans, Irish, English, and God knows what terminology is in place, right? And you're going to have your own team language. So by all means, create this, but these things need to be common discussion line. So at halftime, hey, are we getting over the game line? No, are we playing too flat in the attack? Are we playing too deep? What about a defensive line? Are we offside? Right? Why are we so bad with our feet to have the referee blow the whistle because we're offside? Right? It's one of the most frustrating, I think, penalties to give away, isn't it? When you're offside on the D line. I mean, so, but anyway, we'll move on. Your spread attack will get the ball wide. So what do you do with your forwards? Because your forwards come from a cluster of a scrum or a line out, and it may be a full line out or short line outs. But take scrum for example. So you get 8 forwards working hard, and then they come out of that and they're going to react to where the backs attack, right? Or maybe you attack with the number 8, right? So, and then we're expecting them to do a lot of work after that. If you expect your forwards to chase the ball the entire game, they're going to run out of gas, right? They're not built to run, 80 minutes chasing the ball. So why not have them, work in subgroups, right? And not waste time or running. So coming off scrums, I'll go, not always, but generally speaking, depends who's carrying the ball. But if the policy is ball carrier plus 2 in contact, so let's say we come off a left-sided channel 1 scrum, we attack channel 2 with 12 crashes, common play, nothing wrong with it. 12's driving their feet, 7, 8 join them, 12 goes to ground, presents the ball. We have 4, 5, and 6 coming around the corner, right? Then they carry it up. If we're flooding, then we're coming around the corner with 1, 2, and 3 again. So it's quite easy to get them visually, and maybe in practice, put a different bib on those combos so that you can visually see where they are. So the front row a bit yellow on, and 4, 5, 6 a bit red on, and 7, 8 a blue on, for example. So at any given point in time, you could freeze, and then you can get a visual as to where they are in the field, right? Because there'll be some lost sheep along them somewhere, right? And how do you get out there? Okay, so I think putting them bibs there, like the line at 1, 3, 3, 1 is fine, but okay, how do you get into these shapes right, coming off set piece. And what do you do when it doesn't shape up the way you want it to shape up? Then you don't want, the players to panic and think, oh my God, we're not in shape. You have to just instinctively play rugby and go forward. If it does, go forward. And with some authority and some confidence, and good things will happen as a result anyway. So don't look around you and think, we're not in a 1-3-3-1, you're going to get smashed, right? Just go forward. Okay, next up. So this is our attack shape here. Probably most common. Any soccer players? Anybody play soccer in the room? No soccer players. So soccer formation, like a 4-4-2 is like a 4-3-3. Like 4-4-2 is the most common shape in the world in soccer, but it doesn't always stay that way. These shapes don't always stay this way, but this has turned into being quite a common one, and but it could be different. Like I said, coming off scrums, it could be a 2-3-3. It could be a 2-2-2-2 on kick receive that turns into a 4-3-1. So these are fluid things because they move, right? All right, let's go next. So this is how we would get into a 1-3-3-1 coming off a short lineup. So I've chosen a 4-man lineup. Probably 5 is probably the most preferred shortened lineup. But if you don't have 5 contributing members in a short lineup, why would you put 5 in there? Unless you can even go full lineup if you wanted to open up a ton of space for your backs. But the key is you have to win the ball, right? The shorter line allow you a little bit more movement. Currently with my club back home, we're using a 7s lineup, we're using a 3-man, and where the 6 is at the tail, we're dropping the 6 into the 9 position, and the 2 is being replaced by the 9 because our 2 can't throw. I haven't had a 2 that can throw for like 3 years with the club, so we just fired them all. But they're good runners, so we put them out right there where the 7 is. And again, the number doesn't apply, it's the athletes you have. Who can win you the line-out ball. So I've gone to a 7-style line-out simply because I just want to win the ball. Right? Who said I had to be, triple movements and a lot of, complication and simple stuff. A lot of, 7s, they're going to not, if you get one good jumper, you've got to have at least one jumper and a couple of lifters. And then everybody else can go off and play rugby, right? So I just dropped the 6 down where the 9 is so they cover for the overthrow. When we win the ball, the 6 steps up, and then the 6 heads across the field to join the 8 and 3, and there's your 3. And then the jumper and the 2 lifters can fold to make it a rotating 3. And then you could leave the 2 on the sideline, but let's say your number 1 is your most challenged, unfit lifter, right? And you don't want to run them too far because they're going to run out of gas, right? So why didn't you keep them in the wide channel? You wouldn't want to keep a hooker in the wide channel if that hooker is really good around the ball and very fit and energetic. You want those players in the 3. You want them running. They need more touches on the ball, don't they? Rather than sitting out there and never seeing the ball. So don't put probably your best ball carriers in those wide spots because they're not going to see that much action, right? And you got to be a little bit diplomatic but honest about how you delegate positions here, right? You can't say, hey, by the way, you go way in there and stay there. Right? What I do, don't worry about it, right? But just you know your players and then rotate them, right? I mean, I think you need. What I've been doing in practice is rotating the jumper and the lifters with some of the players that are in the runners because when we do substitutions, there's another thing. When you make substitutions in your game, they won't, if they don't know their job, it'll go downhill in a hurry. Trust me, I've done it. Where am I going? So in practice, it's putting players and rotating them into multiple positions so that they are interchangeable, right? And I think that's really good. Any questions on this, by the way? Can you see how this shape unfolds? Right? So this here is off the kickoffs. So they don't have to be side by side here, but there's generally 4 forwards on one side and 4 on the other, right? Now, in my playing days, we stuck all the forwards on one side. And there's nothing wrong with that. But this gives us the ability to really play in every part of the field. And if you go to the next slide, Brett, so we just kicked to our left. Those 4 forwards have converged. That's a ball carrier +3 in that contact, because I think there's going to be more contestable ball there in the air. So we're putting 3 in the ruck rather than ball carrier +2. Now, if we look safe, we could leave a forward on that left edge, and we could win the ball with 3, and we could be into a 1-3-3-1 straight away. But what happened in the middle here, if you go back one slide, is that when the ball kicked over here, these pairs then created the next slide. 1 came over and 1 stayed, right? Well, there's 4 over here, so 3 merged into this part of the field, right? Now again, communication. You get 2 and 2. The ball's in the air, they should understand that the ball is going to the opposite side. The kicker usually will tell you, body language, he knows where it's going. You should start to migrate over. Hey, come with me. Who's staying the sideline? I'm staying the sideline because I'm tired. Who's out there? They have to communicate, and that's sometimes a problem, right? So then they drift over. So now we're in a very good attacking scenario where we can go off 10, and these are the backs, the reds, and they need to be taught how to get in position, because you're not going to get 3 passes. If we go 1 pass, 2 passes, if the defense is bringing line speed, you're going to get tackled after your 2nd pass. The 2nd receiver is going to take contact, right? If you get a 3rd pass in, they're not coming at you, so you can probably do whatever you want. If they're just sitting, you can run anywhere. So 2 passes, decent line speed, they're coming at you. If you go out the back and you decoy those front forwards, and this is what I call punch, and this is Judy option, and this player here is Judy, they pass out the back. Now we've lost the advantage of these 3 attacking, and then we can get wider with more than 2 passes. But whether we use the next punch runner in here, could you put 2 here and 2 here? Yeah. You can do various things with this, right? But let's say we decoy those 3 forwards, right? Where are they going to go? Do you think? So when players are decoyed, they often think like they're lost. What do we do next, right? And you may say it's a bit of a waste decoying 3 people into bars and door down, right? So I'd rather punch them to soften them up before you go out the back, right? If you go out the back right away, you haven't challenged them, right? So if you do get decoyed here, and the attack is going here, then start going across to where you anticipate your teammates are headed. So, and whether you get the ball or not, there's no pre-calling in this. It's the first receiver looking at the defense and realizing where the space is and looking to see 1, 2, 3. You turn your hips in, I'll get a runner, there's more space, I'm going to you. You look organized and flat, I'm going to go out the back. You're the last defender, right? And we've got 2 more outside you, I'm going out the back because we can get around you. So your first receiver has got to be looking. Everybody's responsible for looking. The communication is coming from the outside in. The wing that just started playing last week, or on Tuesday night, they play on Saturday, brand new to the game, has to be vocal. Hey, I'm free on the outside. I'd love to see the ball sometime today. It's 0 degrees and I'm dying here in Wisconsin. Can we get the ball? So that the information is going in rather than everybody expecting information to come from some guru of the fly half that has to run the whole empire. Right? So everybody's responsible for communication around. I hear the punch runner saying, hey, I'm outside you. Hey, I'm ready for the punch. We get double punch. I got duty now. I've got the inside even. I've got all the weapons I need. Now all I need to do is focus on what's in front of me, and then I know that everything's here because they've told me where they are. If a player is silent on the field in training, give me a yellow card. What's a yellow card? For me, I send them to the sideline, do a few up downs, and then come back in again. If they're offside, give me a yellow card. Up downs before you come back in again. It could end up being a lot of up downs, but you'd be surprised that they'll react to that. Why are you getting a yellow card? Because you're not talking. You off. Then they might ask you, maybe it's still silent, and keep giving them yellow cards until they start, why am I getting yellow cards? Because you're not talking. Talk, right? So communicate. Ball carrier needs to know he's got a support runner. So use the yellow card as a practice thing to say, and it only takes them out of the game momentarily, right? But you're saying, get out of the game, push-ups on the sideline, and then while you're out of the game, your team's short-handed, right? So they get the idea that I need to respond to, I need to talk, I need to be in position, I need to be on side, I need to do whatever you want them to do. All right, let's go next. So we're playing, for instance, we play a 2-3-3 off most scrums, and then I'll play a 4-4 inside their 22 because I want to just bash them. If it's dead ball, right? If it's quick ball, we're going to go wide to the corner, but if it's really slow down there and the posts are here, we'll have ball carrier +3 in the contact. We'll either go 2-2 at the base of that ruck or 1-3, and we just go 4-4 combo to literally wear them down. And that's going to narrow their defensive width, because they'll have to get narrow to stop us. Once you get narrowed, then the signal has to come from the outside. Hey, I'm standing out here about 20 yards and nobody's defending me. Then the word has to come in, and then you have to tell the forwards who are in a feeding frenzy, I want the ball next. So then the scrum master says, hey, now it's next ball, leave it, next ball, it's my ball. Right? Otherwise, they're going to keep doing what they're doing, right? But then you get some fly halves they get antsy, they want the ball. We're very successful in flooding and hammering this channel, and then they just want the ball because they want the ball. Oh, the backs want the ball. Well, no, the forwards are going to score for you under the post, where you might kick the conversion, so don't give up this flood early. Keep it there. It's only gaining you feet and inches maybe, but it's going to draw in defenders. Be patient with this. They do this really faster than it should be done. Okay, move on. Here's an example coming off a midfield scrum. So we get to do a number of plays to get to the right side. So let's say we did I run a play called Aussie because the first saw the Australians. 8 pick, he goes right. 12 off his outside hip. 9 wraps in behind. And then if he carries, or the 12 carries, 7's in the ruck. So 7-8 committed to that first contact. If the backs move the ball all the way to the right side, 7-8 would go across and support whoever carried the ball into contact, right? So, but here we're wrapping. So now 4, 5, 6 come out of the scrum, they go to the right, 1, 2, 3 go. We're using every channel. If, let's say 4, 5, 6 were on the sideline, then 1, 2, 3 would come in on the left side, they come on the inside. But don't take the easy path. Usually the front row guys are not, built for, endurance runs, right? They're not doing too many marathons, right? So when they come around the corner, they're usually going to, well, what's the least what's going to hurt me the less, and where am I going to do the least amount of running, right? So make sure the running's purposeful. So you're sending them to where the space is. Don't come back into the middle of the field before you stretch the defense. All right, next up. Now, folding shapes with typically forwards can take different shapes, and I've moved on. I've reshaped this. I haven't changed the slide, but I would change it. I'd put number 2 where number 3 is, and I'd put number 3 where number 2 is, so I'd switch those two. And the reason being, I want the first wrapping forward to get outside the C defender, given that this defense is organized. This is slow ball, right? I wouldn't sacrifice fast ball. Fast ball, those defenders won't be organized, and that's a different shape. But going off slow ball here, one gets outside the C defender. You've got a scrum half that can be a threat. The scrum half could pass right off the ground, and the scrum half could, what they call taxi, and go sideways a bit just to hold that A or B defender, and then his pass or her pass could beat the BC defenders. Now, given that this is all about timing, look at the angle onto the ball. Now, I challenge you as coaches, if they're wrapping, if you three were wrapping, let's say you're running around, and the next ruck is there, I want you running in front of me, right? They'll run around Cape Horn to get there. They'll go here, and they'll go there, they go there, and the problem with that is it takes forever. Go here and go here, right? It looks like a lazy line, but it gets them from point A to point B and then straighten up. Also, your number 9s. Your number 9s sometimes chase in behind the ball. Chase in front. If you're coming off the scrum, and I pass here, and the attack, I anticipate the attack to get there. I'm going here. The play is there. I'm going to get to where I think the ball is. If the ball is stopped there, that's not really going to be fast ball. I get back to that. So you're going to have to run cheap lines to get to where you need to get to. And when you got a policy for a number 9, it's like dropping a piece of food that as soon as that you get 1,000, 2,000 to pick it up. That means you better be getting there quickly. Otherwise, the whole fastball concept is gone, right? Or maybe somebody else gets there and plays scrum half quickly, right? So ball carrier +3 in the ruck, number 4, bang, gets the ball, goes. So don't give up the idea of fastball ever. It's you're on the front foot over the game line. So you get the point. I'm changing 2 and 3. 9 could come across, give it the 1. If 1 carries, 3's in behind, would be 2. 2 could carry. This player, number 2, could pass the ball to number 3, right? You'll never see it in a high school game. You'll rarely see it in a college game. You rarely see it, I said, but you can see it. It can happen if you train it, right? It's all decision making. If 2 got the ball and 1's covered but 3's open, you give it a 3. It's a triangle, right? Right? It's concept, use of triangles and squares and so forth, and geometric shapes, and basketball, hockey, soccer. It's all about these shapes and reconstructing these shapes. If you can reconstruct triangles, right? If 1 gets the ball, 3's in a good support position and behind. If 1 was to take on D and stay on their feet on offload to 3 right in behind, great. If 1 takes contact and drives their feet, and 3 comes in, latches on, drives and goes to the ground, great. And then 2 can adjust. Could 1 tip the ball inside the 2 if C defender bites over and leaves a gap between B and D? So all sorts of possibilities going on here, which means all your players need to be very confident passing in tight spaces. And it's not some fantastic 15-yard pass. It's from here to here. This tip, this. In here, oh. You got them comfortable, and there's no spin. It drives me insane when they spin and pass from this distance. Right? Squeeze the ball, release it, set it up. Anybody at the combine tomorrow? Any players here in the combine, right? Yeah. So, you know, the spin pass is sexy, everybody loves it, but it's a hard ball to catch, right? At times. If you're a forward and you get a collision coming right here, you want to catch a little ball, it's right where you want it, so you can get that ball and take care of business. You don't want you to be juggling this. You know, I'm sure you've all had fun times tackling somebody who's juggling the ball because they're just sitting duck, right? Kill them. All right. Okay, so here's an example of this fold shape. So we're in Ireland here, we're prepping to play, and we're staying at a school called Clongowes, Irish Jesuit school, 12 rugby fields. So you see this tip here, now the defender, the two inside defenders bit in, and the outside defender, you can see the way his hips are in the direction he's going outside, so he left that big hole in the inside. The next clip, the defenders correct themselves, and then they go at the back, but we fail to catch the ball. You know? So, nothing wrong with the shape, but a lot of time put into it, given that we had to play in 2 days, right? So, if we move on, Brett. So this spear shape is very easy to install, and the players feel very comfortable with it. There's a dominant receiver, number one. The number two gets on the outside hip, the number three gets inside, and they're just going to carry the ball. Right? It's also quite easy to defend because you know where the ball's going. Right? You could have a 10 and behind him and ignore them all and go at the back. But the order of arrival, number one gets wide, 2 on the outside hip, 3 on the inside hip. If let's say there's a gap, and this is where it doesn't need to be robotic. If there's no B there, then just go into that B gap, right? So if you're coming, but so many players will run into that A-B spot just because they want to get into a collision rather than where's the best place to exploit them, right? And so where you attack depends on, you know, maybe A's out of non-position, then the scrum half could go, right? So but we're saying, well, what if the defense is set? How are we going to manage this? So next up, here's this spear shape, folding. Here's the lead runner, 1, 2 on the outside hip, 3 in behind. Scrum half's coming in to approach the ball on the ground. So go back to that, Brett. So just, you know, these are kids, obviously. That big guy there in the front played for Navy against Army this year. And then the scrum half plays for West Point. And there's another West Point guy in the picture here as well. This guy plays for St. Mary's. And so Brett, take that back and freeze it a bit on that frame. So if you freeze there, so the guy on the left, in behind the ball carrier, is the captain of Army, West Point, and the guy on his inside behind him played against him for Navy. And this is when they were sophomores. They had no idea where they were going. So it's pretty cool that you know, down the road you see where they go. So we trained at West Point, not with the idea that they're all going to go there, because not everybody, oh yeah, I want to go to West Point. Well, you got to be a special type of person to go to West Point. You want to be a soldier, right? But West Point now has 12 players from Europe at West Point. And Coach Matt Sherman loves to come and recruit them, but the first thing he wants to know is what their character's like, right? And then, well, that's what that first thing I want to know. So anybody that comes into EIRA for winter camps or any assembly, I look for 2 teacher references, not coaches. If they fill in a prospect form, if you're a player that wants to be considered, they'll put you down as a reference, and then I'll talk to you, but then I'm going after the teachers. So I want to know, are they reliable, are they honest, are they dependable? Are they good human beings? Do they help in class? And do you recommend it? Right? And if a kid can't find 2 teachers, there's a problem. And I occasionally get a red flag, but I'm honored to work with a bunch of tremendous young kids, right? And then when you get on the road, you get that occasional, are these your kids? And I'm like, oh God, what, you know? And usually it's something that they're impressed. So the character piece, all of this X and O's is all great and fun. But at the end of the day, we're developing the next generation of young Americans, right? So we're in the character building business, right? Kids are making mistakes, we make mistakes. Sports, the venue to have fun and grow them, and when we capture some kids that if they didn't have you in their lives, and they didn't have the sport, probably not a lot of good things may happen to some kids. So, if that feels like a heavy burden, I don't think it is, but I think it's just a joy to work with, kids when you see them succeed, right? But anyway, we'll move on here. This is a transition, like we said earlier. We come off a scrum, we attack the right side, 7, 8, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. The red numbers are the number of possible rucks, right? Of course, what's the intention? You don't want to have rucks. They slow the game down. You want to just go score. You want to offload, which is another. Do you risk taking with offloads? Do you encourage offloads? Because the ball's never on the ground, and the ball's never on the ground, it's fast. And the faster the game, the harder it is to defend, right? So, 7, 8 carried, boom, 4, 5, 6 coming around, 1, 2, 3, we're back to 4, 5, 6. And then 7, 8 line up outside 10, could be inside 10. But then we have the second layer of attack with 12, 13, 15, 11, coming out the back in what I call those duty lines. So the punch runners are the front line runners, the duty runners are behind. And if I'm the first receiver, I want to hear punch, I've got on the outside, duty in behind. Right? So, next up, can you go from a spread where we're covering the width to flood? The flood where we just it's dead ball, we just call, say 6 of our forwards in, there's 3 on the ground, we bring another 3 in and we just hit that channel to generate the go forward, to penetrate the defense or narrow the defensive line. Once we narrow it, then we're in business to go wider, right? But they'll want to get into a sort of semi-flood without really, if you're going to flood them, it's almost like, you're going to have to give them body blows. Like if you're up here and if I was going to fight this man and I give him a punch and I want to see how he reacts to that first punch. No, I'm going to hit him with about 3, 4. In fact, I'm not going to stop because I'm not that good a puncher, so I'm just not going to stop, right? I'm going to be like a spider monkey all over. Right? Just get on it. Right, so when our forwards flood, they've got to have a passion for it. Sometimes they forget what they're there to do, right? They're the gambusters. They're the guys who, the players that are really going to be and love carrying the ball. So let them enjoy that piece, and if you do decoy them, they're going to feel like you shut the door on them. Like, well, give me the ball. But still, I think after this spread, I think we're just about done, right? There's a number of plays. We'll take a look at these. Is our next please? I use this quite a bit. Zulu started calling it the World Juniors in Durban in South Africa. It kept Zulu name was appropriate then, so I just kept it. Every place I've gone, I've usually created a play. Now you can play off the 9, go straight to 12, you can go to 10. If the 12 can't really catch the ball, then go to the 12. You can go through the 10 to the 12 and wrap the 10 into where the 15 is. You can do a number of things with this, but the same concept. You're going to attack the front line with a threat, and you're going to have a second line of attack. Right? So let's move on. This Canterbury play, well, first of all, you need a pretty stable scrum, and then you need a number 8 that can pass off the base. If the number 8 carries, it's going to eat up space and time, so the number 8 gives to the number 9, who wraps quickly and then attacks the 10. You see 10 can come in a short line, 15 in behind. You can play that in the left side channel and put both senders on that side. Here we're just playing at the back, but you'll get a lot of movement of 9 here, and you might get some success with this. And that 10 may not be a punch type of runner, so you may only want to put the 12 in there, right? Next one, this magic, same concept. Here we're coming off the left, coming to the right. 9's in motion. 9 hits the 12 or 13, or goes to the 10 out the back to 11, 15, 14. And if this player is brand new, you might want to put wing and wing together right here and bring your 15 in here, right? Probably your worst passer you don't want here, right? Because it's nothing. They got to be able to come around and pass. Next up, this is Nas. You've got a lot of success with this more recently. Where 8 picks, 12 goes hard with them, 13 they can go at the back. To 9, see 9 wraps, 10 gets in behind the 13. So you've got really 3 possible ball carriers in the front line, 9 wraps here, 10 wraps. And we can get at the back on these teams. And you can exit with this Aussie from your own goal line, because if the 8 gets stopped, you get a ruck, you protect that ruck, you can kick to clear. So it's a pretty safe play. But your 8 has to be quick enough to get away from that defending 7. Yeah? And if the 8 isn't that quick, then let the 9 pick and go. All right, next up, I've had some success with this 2-2-2 split. 2 line up behind scrum the Old Blacks. I'll use this quite often. 10's in motion, running the slant line. 15 goes. It's all about, and there's 12 running the punch lines, and you're always looking at front door, back door options, right? Next up, that's just another version of the Aussie. That's actually a better diagram of it. But you see the yellows? The yellows are your target runners. The others are connectors. And then we move again. There we go. Anything that's starter plays. Just move on to get anything else. Here's a double punch, off lineouts. Anything else? Keep going, Brad. Let's run this a little bit. So this is us in Ontario training a couple of years back. The receiver on the duty line there and behind, Ryan James, just got capped this year. He plays, he never went to college, but he plays for Galtinis. And the fly half is Mike Weir out of Dartmouth. And, again, so this is us last play at White Box. This is us against Argentina. Mikey Fotu's jumping. He's in the NFL for the Cardinals. And then we come across here. And on the ball is Jojo Tikasuba that's played for NOLA for a lot of years now. So, yeah, we didn't score a lot of tries against Argentina, so you got to savor the ones you do get, right? First year we went there, we lost 70 points. Second year we lost 35. Third year we lost 17. Took the same kids back so they could repeat it. We beat Chile twice. We split with Uruguay. We thought we were hot. We're good, right? You meet Argentina, it's like, damn, what just happened? Right? Same with our kids last year in Spain. They played with tempo, they played with speed. We weren't used to playing that fast. Same in Ireland, we trained with Ulster before we played them. We actually went out 2 days later and beat Ulster. In the training session, the backs were playing backs, the forwards were in lineouts and stuff. They played so fast in training that we couldn't, it was too fast for us. It was like, we were to speed it up, right? And we went home back to school that Thursday night and said, what did you learn from that? Well, it's just so fast, coach. So can we train faster? Right? I think we need a mission. Can we have moments that you can't train fast the entire practice, but you could say, okay, the next 90 seconds we're playing at speed. Play fast, right? Like your opposition can't play at. And then our kids were reeling, right? The kids have been to Ireland, have been experienced it. They went to Spain, they knew it. We played Spain in 2 games, 4 days apart. We get better in game 2, we get the same result. They beat us. Right, so Spain's ahead of us in this trial. Our mission is to close the gap between us and other countries. That's our vision, and our mission is to develop the next generation. Not just the elite players, but everybody. That player that loves the game and wants to commit to the game. If you want stuff on this, my email, by the way, I'll give it to you so you can email me. Let's go eagleimpactrugby@gmail.com. And if you say, hey coach, could you send me the attack presentation, I'll send it to you. So it's eagleimpactrugby@gmail.com. So, I'm sure we'll be around tonight. I never stop thinking and talking rugby, which is, but another story. But thank you for being here, right? And I think we're on time. Thank you.